I'm excited. I think I say this every time. I'm excited to share some ideas for Google Slides. I wanted to start with this slide, and then I wanted to ask you, what makes this a boring slide? Because it's pretty boring. And I think the fact that it doesn't have color, the fact that it doesn't have any picture, it doesn't really give you any context or tone or feeling to what to expect here. It's just kind of, I don't know, I typed some things in. So I thought, okay, so let's do one where I add some color and some pictures, and you see I've got my animation. Oh wait, this is a better question before I start that. I wanted to consider, I've read some things that the white background can be kind of glaring and make you squint. Although it's the natural, what we start with, does it look different with a dark background? Because that's something to consider as you're making your presentation. Sometimes the dark background is a little easier to look at. So I just wanted an example where I flipped it, the black and white. But then I did add color and animation. So I want us to check out this one. Is this one better? Especially when I click and we get some turning and some sliding. So looking at this slide, what makes this an extra or a chaotic or an overwhelming? It's got color, it's got some animation, it's got pictures, but I kind of overdid all of it, right? And it's kind of, if you look, some of it's hard to read, some of it's overlapping. So these are some of the things that we do without realizing, not to this extent, but that make it feel kind of, if you were to walk in and this were the slide that we were starting with, you might kind of wonder what this presentation is going to be like. So this is the one I went with. And I want you to look at this slide to start out. And I want to ask you, what makes this an effective slide? Start thinking. I'm going to go back. What makes this slide clear? It's easy to read. It doesn't have a whole bunch of different fonts. The colors all seem to go together. It's got a picture, so it is visually appealing, I think. And we've been joking about the unicorn template for a while because it's adorable, but I don't know what content it goes with. So I decided it goes with this content. But it kind of presents a whole picture. So hopefully you see how having nothing visually appealing doesn't help, but having too much visual appealing doesn't help. So we're looking for a balance. So as we talk about Google Slides, there are really three things we need to look at. The first thing is looking at the content of your slides. What your content is really matters, right? Because that's the point of the slides. And then looking at it visually and what the visual impact is of the things you do on your slides. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time talking about those two first ideas, not because I really want to preach a right or wrong way to do anything. I just want to kind of plant some seeds for you to consider when you are creating Google slide presentations. And then most of the time we're going to spend talking about how to do the things. And I've got some resources for you there. So let's start by looking at the content of your slides, because if you don't have a content, you really don't have a need to make a slide presentation. And this is true as a professional. This is true for students. When you have students make a slide presentation. And the truth is, I created this as something that I'm talking to adults about, but you could use this, a lot of these ideas with your students as well. So when we talk about content, I want us to looking at having a slide deck presentation. What are the needs of the speaker versus what are the needs of the audience? So a speaker creates slides, and it's so much easier for me to talk with slides because it helps me plan out my organization. As soon as I start putting together the slides, I start thinking, what's the most organized way to present this? And then it helps me stay on track, all right? It's the way I keep focus and keep going. But my question is, do these have to be appealing slides for me to get my speaker needs met, or for you to have your speaker needs met? Okay, I could have boring slides, just white with black text, with the ideas to keep me on track and help me organize. But when we talk about the audience needs the slides to help stay engaged and to stay focused. You as my audience right now, as the participants in the session, these slides are helping you stay focused on where we are. Instead of just having to listen which for me, it's much harder to listen than it is to see something. It helps stay engaged and focused, and it helps you retain the content using multiple modalities. One of the ways I remember things is I can picture them. If you ask me where something is, I'm probably going to close my eyes and try to picture where I saw it. So having slides as a listener helps me remember information. So if we consider speaker needs being staying organized, staying on track, and audience needs of staying engaged and retaining content, does the audience need, does that require appealing slides? And it does. And my point here is when you create slides, you want to remember you're actually creating the slides for your audience. They're helpful for you, but you're making them because you're thinking about your audience. And as teachers, we teach our students that when they're writing, right? Know your purpose, know your audience. Those are the two important things when you start writing. So I just want us to remember the reason we're making slides is because we want our audience to receive our message. The second thing I want to talk about is text versus images. Okay, so these are some good things that we want to make sure we do. We want to have an impactful image. My opening slide with like 6 different kinds of unicorns, I could have just chosen one, right? An image that has an impact. We want to have concise text. We don't want a ton of text. If you've ever been at a presentation where the whole slide is all kinds of written out text, unless there's a real need for it, sometimes we start to type a paragraph when what we just need are some concise words. And then we want to be considerate in the size and the color of the text. If your text is super small, you probably want to make it a couple slides so that you can break it up and make it bigger. The other thing is the color. Do you remember on my unicorn one, I had like light pink letters with yellow highlighting, and it was hard to see. When I was contrasting the white background versus the black background, depending on if you're indoors or outdoors or by a window, some of those decisions can have an impact. So you want to pay attention to how your audience is going to view that. And then you want to have clear images. Don't take a small image and blow it up and it's all pixelated. Don't have an image that's really busy. Think visually about how does this look as a whole, because if the audience is looking and they're like, I can't tell what that picture is, that picture's too big, that picture's too, it's distracting and they're not getting your message, right? So these are some of the good things to consider. These are some of the not so good things that we want to try not to do. We don't want to have too much text, okay? We don't want to have too many images. Choose one. I had thousands of not so good image examples. I chose to put a big, just one thumb, okay? We don't want the placement to be messy. So there are a couple things that I'll show you in a little bit that help you with the organizing, but I want you, when you're creating a slide, to look at it and think, does this look like a bunch of things thrown on, or is it kind of organized? Is it lined up? If my 2 boxes here were like just kind of all over, that might not bother me, but that might bother someone in the audience who's like, oh, it really bugs me that those are off. And you want to pay attention to what's going to be visually appealing as a whole slide. Okay, and then the last thing is style changes on every slide. If you notice, I'm using the same color background, I'm using the same title font, I'm using the same body font, and my slides always have a consistent style. Because if you don't, if every slide is something different, your audience is looking at it and their brain is having to adjust every single time the slide changes to, okay, what's going on this slide now, right? So that consistency is actually an audience courtesy to help them see a structure without having to totally reevaluate the image every time. I hope that makes sense. When you consider every time the slide changes, it's a new picture that the brain's taking in, and you want to have some consistencies there. Okay, so changing the font every slide, changing the color every slide, make sure that's an intentional choice if you want to do that. All right, so keeping in mind tip number 2, you want to make sure the images and text, they support understanding, but they're not overwhelming or distracting. So keeping in mind tip 1, that you're building your slides for your audience. Tip 2, okay, so I've got this slide for them. Is it going to overwhelm them because there's so much on it? Or is it going to distract them because some of the extra things, I think of animation a lot of times, can be distracting. One more content tip, and that's this. Do you get my point? If you're putting things on the slide that you're going to be reading out loud, shorten what you're putting on the slide unless it's a quote that you want to have a strong impact. Okay. Now, having said that, it is a true point. Don't read your slides out loud. Don't put all your text there. But I mean, it's hard to put together a presentation about this because you're like, they're going to call me out every time I'm reading what's on the slides, because it's what we do a lot of times. But be aware, if it's something you're going to say out loud, you maybe don't need to put the whole thing on the slide. All right. Okay, so here's the idea there. The audience, whether it's students, adults, anyone, they're going to read the slides or they're going to listen to you. They're not going to do both at the same time. Okay, so if you want them to read it, don't say it. Give them time to read it. If you want them to listen to you, don't put it right on the slide. Maybe just put some keywords. Okay, so those are just a couple little content things to keep in mind before we start. The next thing I want to talk about is some visual principles. Now notice I changed my color here, right? Because I've changed my topic. So I'm choosing a different color. I wouldn't usually point that out. I'd usually just do it. A couple things I want us to talk about visually. First is colors. Paying attention to the colors that you're using in a slide so that they kind of have a consistent start to finish method. I'm probably going to use, this example comes to mind all the time, the 3-year-old who chooses their own clothes because this shirt is cute and this skirt is cute and these shoes are cute and I like this hair, but none of it really goes together. It's just kind of a bunch of stuff that the 3-year-old likes. And that's great for a 3-year-old, but that's kind of what sometimes happens with slides if you're not intentional. So color palette is important in being consistent. Colorlovers.com, it's a really cool site where people, I'm sure they're graphic designers or people who have a passion for color coordination, put together 5 or 6 colors that go together. They just make all different palettes, and I'll show you more about that later. But that's a cool way, not just for Google Slides, but for when you're decorating or needing color schemes for anything. Colorlovers.com is a cool website. Okay, we also talked a little bit about fonts. Thinking about a font, I mean, there's an old joke about not using Comic Sans for stuff that's really serious. It's the same idea, right? I'm using kind of whimsical fonts with this. I'm using unicorns, okay? I wouldn't probably use that if this were like a serious presentation about the impacts of blah, 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 blah. If this were something serious, okay? If I'm doing a history presentation on World War II, unicorns and cutesy fonts probably wouldn't be the right thing to do, but I would choose just a couple, okay? A couple to stick with for the whole presentation. All right, the last, or not the last, but I think I've already kind of talked about the fourth, balance. Looking at your slides when you're done, does it look balanced? Is anything overlapping? Is anything covered? Do I have something really small that maybe I could make bigger, or something that's bigger that I could make smaller? Just kind of giving your slides a look at the end to make sure each slide has some visual balance to it. All right. And then style, I was just talking about matching that style with your content. Not convinced that unicorns are going to be the right choice for everything. So you just want to keep that in mind. All right. Those are my ideas about being aware visually of what your slides look like. I just wanted to drop a couple of those ideas before we get into the how-tos, because I think they're really important, because you can know how to do everything in slides, but if they don't have balance or a kind of a consistent theme, it's going to be a little trickier. So how to do the things. I made a slide like this, and I did this so that if you go to the slides later, you have a one-stop. Each of these little boxes links to the slide that's going to talk about it, and then I left 2 empty because I had extras and I couldn't think of anything, but you may think of things that I don't talk about, so I'll be able to add them later. First of all, here's Google Drive, right? You can go new, you can go slides and you can open a new slide deck. Okay. There's also, though, I could go slides.google.com or go to slides in the waffle menu, and it's going to take me here, right? Where I can open a new, I can go to new. There are also templates up here. Do you see this extension right here? This is an extension called Google Docs Quick Create. And I add it on any account that I have. This little button, I use it all the time. I need something in Google, I click right here, and I can go new presentation. So that Google extension, it's Google Docs Quick Create, right there, and I've got new slides. So I use this. You could go to Drive, you could go to Slides, however you open a slide presentation. I want you to notice there are templates right here. I don't find these templates to be super cute with students. I have a couple other sites that I'll show you later, but these are great themes to use too. Okay, I'm going to close that and get it out of the way. And then I'm just going to leave this here in case I need to demonstrate anything. So I'm going to come back over here, but that's how you open a blank slide presentation. Okay, and then I'm going to come here. I want to show you, I mentioned when you click here, it's going to take you to the slide. This button right here takes you right back. Let's get started. The first thing is using fonts. Now, you may already have the text boxes on the slide. If you don't, there's this T box right there, or you could go to the insert menu and choose text box. Okay, either way is going to get you a text box, but often they're already there for you. When you click in the text box, you're going to see this in your toolbar. Okay, so if you look and go, I don't see that step, it's probably because you're not clicked into a text box. But I want you to look at what you have. The name of your font. Did you know when you click on the name of your font, the first thing it says is more fonts? And you can click on more fonts and you can go to all of Google's fonts and add as many fonts as you want. So you have a lot of options there. And then it would list all your fonts, right? Which you can change. Now, just recently, they added this minus and this plus. Okay, usually you just have the number, but now if I'm looking at this heading and I want it to be bigger, but I don't know what number I want, I can highlight it and go plus, 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 plus until it's as big as I want. Bold, italic, underline, we're pretty familiar with those. Font color, and then highlighter. So I use that here, right? I highlight in white and I make the font green. If I want to add a link to the text, I can. I think that's common. I've never used that one. This is where you have your alignment. So you can center it, you can send it to the left, you can send it to the right. Here's your line spacing. Here's a numbered list. Here's a bulleted list. So you've got all your text features right here. I want you to know, so this is a text box. I used the paint bucket, which I don't have a picture of here, but I used the paint bucket to fill it white. And then I used the line bucket to give it a green line around it. Do you see how this box has a different effect than this one? So looking at formatting, I talked about filling it. I talked about putting the line. There are all kinds of things you can do. Oh, here we go. Here's the paint bucket, the line. I use a 4. This is a 4 line around the outside. You can make it dotted, whatever. One thing that I think is really cool, particularly when the background is solid, can you tell that this has a drop shadow around it? And my fonts have a shadow behind them. In the 3-dot menu, it says format options, and then drop shadows down here. So I'm going to show you, if I go to my text, we'll just call this sample text, right? I'm going to highlight it. I've got my font, all kinds of things. It turns out because my type is small, format options is right here. All I do, I put drop shadow. Can you see how that pops it out a little bit? That's not always the right choice. Sometimes that makes it look worse, but sometimes that helps to kind of bring things out. This one doesn't have a drop shadow on it, just so you can see the difference. I just wanted you to know how to do that. So there are all kinds of things you can do with text boxes to make them look the way you want them to look. Now, adding images, again in the toolbar, you've got your image button. And then when you click it, you're going to see all these options. Upload from the computer if you already have it saved. If you have something in Drive or Photos. What I use most often is search the web. Okay, if I'm needing to insert a image, I'm going to search the web. What it's going to do is pull this up on the right side. Okay, so I can come here, I can go to image, search the web, and you can see how it comes up right over here. Okay, the ever popular search for puppies. Now I have all these choices. I can choose this one and this one and this one, and I can insert them all at once. So that's adding images. If you want your image to have a transparent background, you can add PNG. PNG or PNG is the file type that's transparent in the background. Okay, the other thing you can do, so I use the search the web a lot, but also you could just go do a Google search, find the image you want, and then right click on it and copy and paste it right into your slides. Okay, if you're wanting to make sure you're aware of copyright, because this is something that's going to go beyond just your use, one of the sites that I use is pixabay.com. Pixabay.com, anytime there's an image like in the tech newsletter or something outside of just my personal use, I know that pixabay.com, those images are free to use and I don't have to give any copyright permissions. Okay, so that's an easy one. So that's inserting images. I want to show you a couple things about cropping images and getting them just right. Now you probably know that anytime you click on an image, it's going to get these four, I'm sorry, there are more than four, these blue squares on them. Okay, I can make it skinnier, I can make it shorter. If I drag the corners, most of the time when you drag the corners, it keeps it in proportion. If it doesn't, do you know that holding down Shift will keep it in proportion? So if you have like a circle and you want to make sure it stays circle, you can hold down Shift while you drag and it'll keep it in proportion. That's super nice when you have pictures of people. Because if you take a picture of a person and go this direction and make it wider, people aren't going to be very happy with you. All right. This button right here is going to rotate. So if you want it to twist, this one's where you rotate. Interesting, if you're doing this with students, it gives you the degrees that it rotates. If you double click on it, it's going to automatically give you the crop. You can come up to the toolbar and find the crop button, but if you double click, it'll give you these crop handles. Okay, and you make sure you grab the handles and you can crop it down. Okay, bonus, this little arrow next to the crop, if you click there and choose a shape, it's going to crop your image into the shape. So I chose an arrow there. Sometimes you want your picture to be in a circle. Sometimes you want something to have those rounded corners. Okay, you can just go into the shapes and crop it. Let me show you. Let me insert a picture. When I go to crop, I'm just going to choose the rounded one. And do you see how that rounded the corner? Now this is like super, super bonus, but do you see this little yellow? What that does, that changes the arc. Okay, so if I want it to be a little more, a little less, that's true in a lot of things. That's also true, these poor little puppies are gonna get. Okay, that's also true on an arrow. Look, I have a little yellow right here, so I can go, oh, I want my arrow to be more narrow. Sorry, guys. Or right here, I need this arrow to go this direction. Okay, in general, I would say these shapes aren't designed by accident. Don't mess with this kind of stuff unless you have to, because it's designed to be visually balanced, but you do have the flexibility there. Okay, so that's cropping images. Are we doing good so far? Questions?
Liz, couple questions.
Okay.
One about your background. We have a question. Is that a stock background from Google, or did you get it from somewhere else? Someone's complimenting you on the background.
The green is a template from the unicorns, and I'll show about that later, I promise.
Okay. And if you're using a Slides Mania theme,
yes,
you created most of the slide presentation, but then you decide you want to change the whole theme. Is that possible?
That's a really good question. It is possible. I don't know that I have the exact answer of how to do that right now, but
okay,
yes, it's possible.
Have that person email you.
Yes.
Okay, so please email Liz with that question. We have a question. you're okay. Well, and I think this is a yes, but teachers want to share the slide that with their students to show students how to insert images into their slide presentation.
Yes, yes, for sure.
And did you add the PNG to the search? And what does that mean by transparent? Does that mean no white
Okay,
box around the image?
let me go back to image search. Okay, so see how he doesn't have a square around him? See how he doesn't have a background? That's PNG is the file type that's transparent in the background. Okay, that's all I mean by that. If I wanted to layer this over something else, that would be really important. If I've got a green background and I've got clip art, but it's got a white square, what I want is for it to be transparent. So PNG is what I'm looking for.
And what you're presenting, Liz, is that it's the same on a Mac as it is on a...
Yes, it is the same. In fact, I'm on a Mac right now. It's the same in any web browser. It is different on an iPad.
Thank you, Liz.
Good?
Yes.
Okay, so that's text and images. We can add shapes. So I use arrows a lot, and I also use speech bubbles quite a bit. They're good to draw attention. I want you to know this shape menu has all kinds of shapes to it. Common shapes, arrows, the call outs, you've got brackets, symbols. This is your toolbar that you want to use, right? The paint bucket's going to fill it up. The line goes around the outside. What color is it? The line, the width of the border. I usually use 4. And then if you want it to be a dotted line or a dashed line, you have that control here. So those are shapes. Sometimes those are helpful to make a shape that you're going to type in. Every shape has text in it. So I didn't have to add a separate text box. It's right in the arrow. But that's all there is to adding shapes. I showed you the resizing and the little special yellow button to change the shape of it a little. And then the drop shadow you can do on images and arrows and shapes and text and everything. Adding animation to things. This is a really helpful one, but again, with animation, you want to be really careful and not go overboard, okay? In the very beginning, I added a slide transition. Personally, I feel like it's distracting. I feel like I'm always, whoa, what's happening? Where's the slide going? I just like going from slide to slide, but you have that right here. Now, how did I get to this menu? Let me show you on our poor puppy. I can go insert animation. So that's all we're doing. It's insert animation. And then this comes up on the right side. Okay, you want to make sure you're clicked on something. If that option is grayed out, it's probably because you hadn't clicked on something. You have to have an item highlighted. Okay, so when you go there, you've got your slide transition if you choose, but the object animations are right here. Okay, now I'm going to talk for a second about this because I want to make sure that you understand. Now I have 4 arrows here. I didn't animate them because I want them all to show. So I'm going to show you. So let me I'm going to just number these. Oops, I'm not going to start with 2 though. I'm just going to number these. I'm Control D'ing right now. That duplicates. I don't know if you're a shortcut person. Okay, so I've got 4 arrows, right? I'm going to click on the first one and I'm going to go Insert Animation. And here's my menu I was telling you about, right? I want it to fade in on a click. So the first time I click, it's going to come in. Now, I've got this one animated, right? What I want though, when 2 shows, I want 1 to go away. So I'm going to click on this one and then I'm going to hold down Shift and click on that one so that I can highlight them both. And then I'm going to add animation. Now, if I'm not sure which one is which, if I click this one, do you see how this got like a blue outline? So I know, okay, so I'm on 1. I do want that to fade in on click. I'm going to make that faster. This one though, okay, I know I'm on the 1. Sometimes you can see the text. I could have made them different colors. That might have made it easier. But I can see it's outlined in blue. I don't want it to fade in. What I want, by the way, look at all your options. I want it to just be silly. I want it to zoom out with previous. That means when I click the one above, this is going to happen here. Okay, so now I'm looking at 2 and 3, add animation. Okay, I'm on this one. That's 2. I want that to fade out. And then 3, I'm going to stop after this one. Okay, because I did them, I had them both clicked. This is with previous, right? I want that one to fly. Well, let's do fly in from the right just so we can see how weird that feels. Okay, now I want you to notice a couple things. First of all, I didn't want to animate this one. I've got a trash can. Oh, wait, I've got them out of order. Just grab, do you see those 6 dots right there? You can just drag them and put them wherever you need them to be. Okay, so that's how you can add animation. So now that I'm done, I'm going to click play just to test it. I didn't do number 4, so that's why it's still showing there. I'm going to space bar. There's 1. Space bar, that's what zoom out looks like. Space bar, that's what flying in from the right looks like, and it feels weird. And then I'm going to go, okay, I'm done. Why won't it let me do anything? I need to either click stop or do one more space bar until it gets back to normal. Okay, I hope that makes sense with the animation. It's kind of a cool feature, and having it come and go. On this slide, I wouldn't have had each arrow remove as it comes in, but sometimes when I'm showing all the pieces on a toolbar, it's helpful to have them just one at a time. So that's how you can animate shapes. You can animate anything. You can animate pictures. You can animate text boxes. Anything that you can click on, you can add that motion to, you can animate. One additional thing on text boxes is that you can say right here by paragraph. If you click by paragraph, it's going to go line by line. Okay, so for example, that box I animated, but I didn't check by paragraph. This box I animated and I did by paragraph. So that means I can go backwards and forwards. It's not based on the line, it's based on the return. So wherever you have a return, this is nice for bulleted lists, a numbered list if you're wanting to give steps and you want people going step by step with you. But I do want you to know when you're talking to adults, sometimes having everything animated one by one feels like I don't trust you to think on your own. So I'm going to need to step you through. Super effective with students that you need to step through with you, but just be aware you don't want to animate everything with adults because it starts to feel like, give it to me and I can read and then I'll know where you're going.
Liz,
Yes.
going back to the arrow 1 and arrow 2.
Yes.
You talked about how you could highlight it at the same time, and you said something about shift. Can you show that again?
Yes, I can. Okay, so what I usually do, I click on one, I hold down the shift key, and I click on the other one. Okay, that highlights more than one thing. The other thing you can do though, I'm going to click and drag and highlight both of them and it does the same thing. So you can either click and drag and go over whatever you need, or click, shift, hold down shift and click on the next one. All right, so we talked about text boxes and the paragraph button. Animation is only going to show when you're in present mode. So if you're not in present mode, it's going to show everything that's there, which means if you've stacked a bunch of images on top of each other so that they'll animate and go through, when you look at the slide, you're only going to see the one that's on top. Okay, and then this isn't something I was really going to talk a lot about, but if you're stacking items, let me come back here. You want to be aware of this arrange option. I'm going to click on this one that's all the way in the back, arrange, order, bring to front. So sometimes when you've got layers that arrange and order, if you notice, I told you I'm a shortcut person. The command, shift, and then the arrow will send it all the way to the front and all the way to the back. Okay, so when you're not seeing something, it might just be because it's behind something else. All right, if that got confusing, let that one go. That's not a super important one unless you need it. Okay, now that's text and images and cropping and animating. I want to talk about links. Inserting a link is really easy. If you highlight text, you can either click on the link in the toolbar, you can go insert and then choose link, or you can hold down Control and tap K. Control K is the shortcut for link. It's going to bring up a box like this. You just paste your link in there and you click apply. And then it's going to underline the text. You can change the color of the text, but don't change the underline, because underline is pretty universally, when you see something on a website and you see that it's underlined, it's like a brain cue to click on that. It's a link, or hover over it and look at where the link is going before you click. But that's your hyperlink. Okay, so highlight the text, do one of these things, click the link button, insert the link, Control K, paste your link in there, and then apply. And then it'll be hyperlinked. Now, sometimes you want to hyperlink to another slide. Okay, when I click here, it's taking me to another slide, right? And then when I click there, it's taking me back to this slide. Here's how I did that. When I went to paste a link, do you see right here how it says slides in this presentation? If you click slides in this presentation, it gives you all the slides. Now you could say go to the next or the previous or the first or the last, but if you choose a specific slide, it's going to link it to that slide, okay? And I'll give you an example. I finished the slide presentation, and then all these how-to slides, I changed the order. Well, oh, I really want to talk about this when I talk about this. It doesn't matter, because that menu, it linked to the actual slide. It didn't link to slide 25. And if slide 25 changes, it messes up the link. All right. So when you link to one of the slides, it's going to keep it that slide, even if the slides change order. Okay. So you can highlight and link to text, or you can link to another slide.
Liz,
So that's adding links. Yes.
when you add a slide presentation to Google Classroom, is it in present mode for students?
No. No, I think when students open it, they open the whole, this whole view. Okay. That doesn't mean they can edit. If you share it, just view, they don't have this whole toolbar, but it still looks like this. Okay. We talked about color palette earlier. I'm using a template. The colors are already set. So I'm not messing with the colors. I'm not choosing any colors. I'm just using what's available there. Okay. When you go to the paint bucket, the font color, the pen color, you see this color picker. Okay. You always have transparent. That doesn't work for text, but in a paint bucket, you can make it transparent. Or if you have a line and you don't want the line, you can click on transparent. But otherwise, these are your preset colors. If you're using a theme, whether it's from a Google Slides theme, whether it's from a template, whatever, in the unicorn theme, these are the primary colors. So here's the green of the background. Here's the purple of the background. Here's the blue. So these are the colors I'm using. When I'm choosing colors, I'm choosing these, because they're the colors that go with the theme. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to choose my own colors. I just want to use these. Now, if you don't have a theme and you're using something like this, I talked about Color Lover. This is an example of a color palette that oh, that's kind of interesting. We could do something with those colors. Each color right here has what's called a hex code. Okay, I'm not a color designer, but I'm familiar with hex code. All I do is copy that code and paste it right there. Okay, so when I click add color, it gives me this window and I can paste that right there. And then it's going to give me that color. So that's how I can add a new color. All right, I don't know that everyone's going to need that. I don't know that everyone's going to need to use that, but if you want to add a new color and you want it to be a specific color, there you go. But really, my recommendation, especially if you're using a template or a theme, just stick with these colors. Stick with the ones that it gives you. Okay? Now, the template. I know this is a big one. I don't remember the last time I made a Google slide deck without starting with the template, just because I want to focus on what the content is and not worry about the design. And this is an easy way to have the design done for me. Okay. My two favorite sites, and I'm sure there are many, slidesmania.com, slidescarnival.com. Here's the deal. Okay. I'm going to go to Slidesmania. I'm going to look through all these templates that they have: business, education, formal, fun, whatever. Okay. Now, she's been doing a lot because of distance learning as far as, look at these. Okay. This is a weekly planner. This is a weekly planner. Her other one, she's got 5 or 6 different planner kinds of ideas, where this is the slide deck you give to people on Monday. It has all their work for the week so they know where to click. All right. But what I want to show you is this one right here. This choice board is super fun. So take a look. I've got a little thumbnail so I can get the feeling for the style of it. I'm going to tell you, here's how the choice board works. You've got this slide with 6 things. Each of these buttons links to, here's activity 1, here's activity 2, here's activity 3, and you build out the slides. All right, super fun. But whatever, maybe it's the unicorn template that you're choosing. Okay, whatever template you choose, you scroll down. Now here's a preview, so I can click through, see what the slides look like. Okay, what I'm looking for when I look here is, does it have space that's going to match what my content is? I'm going to need a lot of screenshots. I don't want a bunch of busy background, that kind of idea. Okay, and then in this case, she's got extra shapes that you can copy and paste in. Okay, but really what you want is this Get Google Slides theme. Okay, you click there, it's going to do this. It's going to give you this, and then you click Use Template. When you click Use Template, it's just going to open a brand new slide deck. Okay, it's going to be called like Choice Board Dash Slides Mania or something. It's going to have all your slides there. I did the same thing for Slides Carnival for their dinosaur and clicked Use Template. So there's that one, which again, this is Slides Carnival, same idea. You can scroll down as soon as you see this, you can preview. Look at this one, you guys. I have no use for this, but look how adorable that is. Okay, and then same thing, uses Google Slide Theme. And then it's going to open the presentation. Okay, so I'm going to come over here. When you open that and you've got it as your slides, first of all, change the name of it, tell it where to save it, move it somewhere, and then look, here are my theme colors. Okay, dinosaurs, here are my theme colors. I don't need to choose colors. I've got the color scheme right there. All right, the fonts are chosen. I'm going to open this one too. There we go. Let me let those load. All right, so I don't know if some of you have already used templates or tried it. Totally recommend. There are so many different templates out there. One thing I want to mention, always, always, always credit the site you got the template from. All right, always say this template is from wherever. That's how I found out about Slides Mania. I was at a presentation and the person presenting was using a template. That is so cute, and I've never seen that before. And I was going to ask them after, but their final slide. And thanks to Slides Mania for this really cool template. I really appreciate it. All right. Okay, so now that I'm here, I want to show you in the dinosaur one. I've got all these slides. Okay, I don't need all those, but I can, oh, I need a heading. I'm going to click, drag, put it where I'm going to want it. If I need another one, I can control, well, here, I can right click and I can choose duplicate, or I can control D and make a copy. And you can just go through and make your slides. Okay, so I had talked about, let me click in something so I can show you. Theme colors are right here. I don't need to guess at any of my colors, they're right here. Okay, if I look, and I usually do this. Okay, so the heading is catamaran, the body is Bellotta text, that's what I'm going to use. If I go all the way to the bottom though, usually, there we go. It gives me some of that. Okay, none of these end slides need to stay in as long as you mention it somewhere. Okay, if you don't, leaving this slide as your last slide is a really easy one. But these design ones, you don't have to leave those in. Okay, so let me come back here. Are there any questions about templates?
Liz, can teachers insert a slide into Seesaw? And if we insert the link, will students be able to open the link in Seesaw?
Okay, so let's talk about sharing for a minute. When you go to Seesaw, you can choose upload and then go to Drive, and you can upload the slides. If you, I wonder if it asks you then if you want them to edit or view. I'm not sure the answer to that. Maybe having a link is the better way to go. Okay, so when I go to share, this is said anyone with the link can view. If I want them to edit, I would change it here to edit, but generally view is good. Okay, now here's the trick I want to show you. I've got it, anyone with the link can view. I'm going to copy the link. I'm going to go to a new incognito window. And the reason an incognito window is nice is because it's not signed into anything. Okay, so I'm going to paste this. Now watch. When this gets shared, this is exactly what someone would see. Okay, they see this whole pane, but they can't edit it. Okay, now this is like my super secret trick, you guys. If I come here, this is that same link. Do you see right here where it says edit? I can change that word. And if I change it to preview, this is what I do when I post slides on Mission Control. If I change edit at the very end to preview, it's going to look like this. And it doesn't give the editing. So I don't know if that's helpful for students. The preview might be when you go to send a link to students.
Liz, what's the difference between Control D and Control C in Google Slides?
Okay, hang on. If I'm here, I've clicked on this one. I'm going to Control C, that copies it, but it doesn't put it anywhere. I have to then Control V to paste it. Okay, same thing. But if I'm here, this is Control D, duplicate. Okay, so it's copy and paste or duplicate. It doesn't really matter. It does the exact same thing. Okay, how are we doing on templates? Did that answer the sharing? In Seesaw, I want to say upload and then just upload your Google Slides. But I'm gonna, you know what, you guys, hang on.
Liz,
Yes.
the Walthal's on with us.
Yes, Lisa, do you have an answer to that?
He wrote, in Seesaw, you need to use the link in order to view the slides. But she's found it easier to publish on the web to get a link to view. And she notes that it's been a trickier part of Seesaw.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do, and I'll show you the publish to the web in just a second. Thank you, Lisa. I am going to get more details and put that into, I'll put that into the tech newsletter. So that's templates. Now, I hope I'm not going over people's heads. If I am, you guys, start with what we've talked about so far and just know this is here because I really think this is so cool. The Slides Master. When someone creates Google Slides, most of, see how like I can't move this dinosaur. I can't change any of this. It's all in the background. That's because it's on the Slides Master. If I go to View and Master, View, Master, this opens up the background masters of the slides. If I realize, okay, on this slide, I really like this, but I wish that this box were like over here. I want it to be this way. And sometimes I've done that when I'm like, I need it to be bigger. I come into the Slide Master and I change it to what I need. Okay? And then when I close it, that changed the actual slide where I couldn't change it. I couldn't change where that box was. It happens in the Slide Master. Here's the other place that I use this. Okay? I really like this little purple dinosaur. I wish he were right there, but I don't have him. I'm going to go View, Master. Oh, he's not separate. Sometimes they're separate. Oh, but I can get this. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come out. I'm going to paste it. So do you see how I can grab elements from the background from the master. I can't always. Sometimes they've done it in a different design program, but sometimes they've got them right there. That's how I moved my unicorns to where I wanted them. I went into the master and I moved them where I wanted them, or I copied them so I could put them on another slide. Okay, there are all kinds of things you can do in the master slide. One of the things that people have done is, I have a graphic organizer. I don't want my kids to move it, so I'm going to put it on the master slide, and then it can't be moved from the actual slide. Listen, do you see this one that says master? Don't mess with this one. What happens to this one happens to every single slide in the deck. But the layout ones, okay, do whatever you want to those. All right, so that's master slide. Let me come back over here. What you do on the master happens to all of them. Look at your layout slides and see what you can do on the layout. It's kind of, if you're interested in designing slides, it's kind of interesting to look in the masters and see how they've done it on the templates. Okay, so there are some options you have in the master slide. I want to talk, and I think I'm close to done. If you're starting to feel overwhelmed, I think we're almost done here. Changing the background. Okay, I have some of these slides are green, some of them are blue, some of them are pink. Here's the way that I do that. And I'm going to come over to our blank one. I'll go here. If I right click, change background. Okay, I can choose a color. Remember, I've got my theme colors. I'm not sure where these theme colors are from, but there we go. I could go gradient, which is a combination of two colors. That's kind of cool. Okay, so I can change the background color. All right, the other thing I can do is I could choose an image. Okay, sometimes texture or pattern are good things to search. And that'll put a background. Okay, remember, we want to be considerate to our audience. We don't want to throw some new background every time. That visual consistency is helpful for comprehension, but I might do a whole section of slides with this. I might search for Blackboard and find a Blackboard image, but that's one way to change the background, is just right click, change background. Okay, the other thing I want to show you, and I'm going to show you in a template. Let's say I've got this slide. If I right click on the slide, I can choose apply layout. And I have all my different, I want it to have this layout. It keeps the content the same, but it changes the slide layout. Okay, so what does that look like in a blank one? Oh, I want the one where I have 2 columns of text. I can go there and it's right there. Can you see that? Okay, so sometimes the apply layout is also going to change your background. This is a plain presentation, so it won't, but in a template, that's one way to change the background. All right, so I have both of those examples. Change it in the background here or use the apply layout. All right, finally, if you're wanting to use, like, put the worksheet on the background of a Google slide, okay? For one thing, I haven't found a way, not that it doesn't exist, but I haven't found a way to put a PDF straight in the background. What you have to do is convert that PDF into a JPEG, okay? But the first thing you have to do is change the page size to 8.5 by 11. I can't put it here. So, File, Page Setup, Custom Page Size, 8.5 by 11, and it's inches. Sometimes you could also have other things, but inches. Okay, now notice that scaled these. See how those look different? I just changed the proportion of the page. Look at our poor puppies. Okay, so if you're going to need to change the page size, do that first before you design other things. All right, once we have the page size at 8.5 by 11, you can change that background to whatever picture you want. Okay, so that's File, Page Setup, Custom, 8.5 by 11. And then a reminder, it's going to scale things. So do this first. And then the image, we talked about choosing an image here. That's add an image. And you guys, that's everything I had. What did I miss? What are our other questions?
We are caught up with questions, Liz.
Oh, I can't believe it. I know that was a lot. If we were in real life, we would have gone into slides. You would have tried it. You would have had your questions. That's one of the reasons I created this, so that you could go into whichever one you wanted more details about. You basically know where I live. You're in my dining room. So let me know if you have questions and we'll figure it out. Google Slides, super fun. I love this stuff. All right.
All right. Thank you, Liz.
Okay. I'm going to go to my pink thank you unicorn slide. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to use my new unicorns. I know this was a lot and I know this went kind of long, but I'm thankful for you guys for listening and have some amazing slides without overwhelming your audience, just a gentle visual help to what you're talking about. All right.
All right.
Okay. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody. Hope to see you tomorrow.